Let's examine the most recent updates concerning Trump's global economic policies and its effect on U.S. economy and global interactions. We're joined from Washington by Mr. Peter Roff, the contributing editor at Newsweek, and from Beijing by Mr. Nader Huan, the writer and political analyst. Gentlemen, welcome to Think Tank. Mr. Roff, with Trump's tariffs on China and pressure on the U.S. companies, then reduce them after a lot of pressures. Is this economic vision sustainable, or is it destabilizing global trade?
It is sustainable, and global trade needs to be destabilized. Look at it this way. Tariffs are taxes, and I don't like tariffs. They raise prices for working people. But America has a small wall around it that keeps goods and services from coming in. That's now Trump's universal 10% tariff. When you look at China, when you look at Japan, when you look at the EU, to pick three examples, they have a wall around themselves that is, comparatively speaking, the difference between a three-story apartment building and the Empire State Building. Their tariffs blocking American goods and services from coming in, and their other practices like currency manipulation and IP theft create an unreasonable, unfair relationship. We have pursued the free trade agenda since the end of World War II globally. And all we get in response is, yeah, we'll lower the tariffs, but they never get lowered. The minute Donald Trump starts talking about putting tariffs on, sizable tariffs, big tariffs, other countries start negotiating. Other countries want to do deals. Other countries want to lower their tariffs because they understand it's more important for them to be able to sell what they have in the American marketplace, the world's largest department store, than it is to keep our goods and services out of their country. Because we're a much bigger market and we have a lot more power. And Trump is using that market power to get tariffs down. It's not going to work everywhere, and we're going to have to deal with that. And it's going to create some disruption in the U.S. economy. It already has. But the stock market and the Dow are back where they were. They're booming. Companies are committing to significant investment in the United States. It's all working the way Trump wanted. It's not working quickly, but it's working the way Trump wanted. So once again, I think that he has exceeded expectations of his opponents who think that because he's a real estate developer, he doesn't know what he's doing. In fact, he may have just pulled a fast one on the rest of the global economy.
Mr. Huan, how does China view Trump's trade policies, this small wall around America? Do they see this as an opportunity to accelerate their global economic dominance as an opportunity?
Good afternoon. And China thinks, firstly, these policies undermine the multilateral trading system and undermine the common interest of people of all the countries, and also disrupt the international trade and trade order and the security and the stability of the global industrial and supply chains. China stressed many times and in different occasions that tariff and the trade wars have no winner. But China don't want the global economic dominance, because the economic and trade cooperation between China and other countries follows international rules and market rules, and is based on complementarity and mutual benefits. And China is determined to provide stability and positive energy to the world economy through high quality development and high standard opening up.
Mr. Roff, is Trump's hands-on approach to the economy reviving the American industries, or is it merely inflating the costs for consumers and businesses alike? You've mentioned that the stock market and the Dow Jones are where they are. However, Moody's has revised a downward rating for the American economy.
Yeah, and that and 279 will get me an Egg McMuffin at McDonald's. I know there are a lot of people who pay attention to what Moody's is doing, but Moody's and the other systems, bonds, rating systems have traditionally said horrible things about Trump and his plans, and the economy turns around and roars. So they've damaged their own credibility because their projections are wrong. As far as the impact on the global economy, my colleague from China is absolutely correct. There are no winners in a trade war, but not both sides don't lose equally. And that's part of what Trump understands. We lose less. The United States loses less in a global trade war than other countries. Now, I don't think Donald Trump really wants a global trade war. I think he wants the threat of a global trade war to get the Chinese, for example, to stop manipulating their currency, to stop demanding access or ownership of American intellectual property for any American business doing business in China, and for China to lower their tariffs to U.S. goods. That's what he wants, and I think he's getting it.
Well, Mr. Huan, with the U.S.-China tensions, could this tariff rollback signal a shift in Trump's economic strategy, or is it just a temporary pause, or do you think we will be seeing more of this as a threat of trade war rather than an actual trade war?
I think it's a shift in Trump's economic strategy because I think in the beginning, he wants to know what the right line for China is and how China will react to the tariff war, and will it give in its own interest in order to avoid the war. But now, in more than 1 month, he saw that the China will not give in, and China is determined to defend its interest and the rise of the development. So I think this will be a shift in its economic strategy.
Well, Mr. Roff, Trump's personal interventions in corporate decisions, are they undermining democratic checks on executive power over the economic policy? Do you feel that President Trump is dealing with the American economy as a CEO of a multinational company? Do you welcome such a behavior, or do you think that roles should be very distinct, being a CEO of a multinational and a president of the United States of America?
Well, first of all, there's a difference between being the CEO of a publicly traded multinational corporation and being the CEO of a privately held development group. In the latter, which is the Trump experience, he's only really responsible to himself and his partners. He's not responsible to stockholders. He's not responsible to the board of directors. But what Trump is doing mirrors the behavior of just about every other world leader of a free market or pseudo-free market economy, and every one of the 50 governors of the different United States.
But he's also taking executive decisions for companies such as TikTok and Apple.
Well, he's not taking executive decisions for TikTok. That was mandated by Congress. I happen to disagree with it. I think that what Congress did, forcing TikTok to change its ownership if it wanted to continue to operate in the United States is a vast overreach of federal power. And I wish the Supreme Court had found differently than it did. But in terms of his relationships with Microsoft and Oracle and other tech companies and auto dealers and frankly auto unions and steelworker unions and the backbone of the American industrial economy. The fact that the president is out there trying to win work for them, trying to win jobs for them, trying to create growth in their markets is admirable. The idea that there ought to be some divorcement, there's a clear line here, and you can't say where it is, but everybody knows where it is. But Donald Trump just brought trillions of dollars of business for the United States back from the Middle East. That's good for the countries that are investing, and it's good for the United States. The Boeing deal for Qatar is going to put people to work in South Carolina and Washington State, where Boeing is located. It's going to put together people to work in everything that is involved in the complex organism that is a modern jet passenger aircraft. So there'll be jobs upstream, there'll be jobs downstream, and Qatar is getting 160 plus quality airplanes at probably better than what it would have cost them to buy them from the European consortium that builds passenger aircraft. So it's a win for them, it's a win for us. That's an example of free trade at work. That's an example of a president that's out winning business deals that are good for America rather than his predecessor, who was running around the world trying to get the developed economies to shut down their energy production so that the Chinese and the Indians can continue to build coal-fired powered plants.
Mr. Huan, as China invests heavily in artificial intelligence and semiconductors, can the U.S. compete without reversing its current cuts to research funding, especially that the late visit by President Trump to the Gulf countries, to the Middle East, have secured hundreds of billions of dollars worth of investment in artificial intelligence and in the technological sector? Is China alarmed by such a huge investment?
In this area, China has made great progress in the AI and the semiconductor industry, and now is one of the leading countries in this field. And China is catching up the USA in this area. I think China is now making the best environment for these scientists and Chinese companies to make the progress, the technology progress. And I think with the rapid progress, China will reach the same level of the USA in this area and with lower cost. For example, in the beginning of this year, we see the Chinese DeepSeek, and it's reached the same level at the Chat GPT, and it cost lower, and it's so that I think China will even surpass the USA in some technologies in this field, because the Chinese government is also very made great efforts to support this industry in China.
Mr. Roff, how significant is the risk that Trump's focus on tariffs distracts from addressing long-term challenges like supply chain resilience and innovation?
In Trump's mind, the focus on tariffs strengthens the resolve to solve the problem of supply chain resilience. There's a new word, onshoring, that has been coined to refer to bringing critical supply chain manufacturing assembly back to, if not the continental United States, to the North American continent. Some of that is going to happen. I think, though, that the future of America is in the information and biotechnical sectors. And I applaud the reduction in federal investment in those sectors. The problem in the United States, and I can't speak to other countries, but the problem in the United States is kind of a monopsony in research. Researchers will chase federal dollars if they're available, which allows the federal government to dictate the kinds of research that occurs. That research doesn't necessarily lead to breakthroughs. That research doesn't necessarily lead to innovation. It does lead to groupthink. A lot of the conversation about climate change is now driven by groupthink, created by the fact that there are a lot of federal dollars available for research showing climate change exists. There's no federal money available for research to disprove the theory of climate change. Mm-hmm. We could see the same thing in biotech and in high tech. I'll also submit that while I admire the Chinese accomplishments and I welcome their competition, because I think Americans, being a competitive people, that is a call for us to rise and accelerate what we're doing. They wouldn't be nearly as far along as they are if they did not require access to the intellectual property of American tech companies that want to do business in China.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Huan, global markets are reacting to the U.S. unpredictability. What impact might Trump's policies have on America's alliances and leadership role worldwide? Do you feel that the rest of the world is reacting positively towards Trump's tariffs, or will they seek another supplier, another market in China and major economies?
Yes, I think one country cannot dominate the other countries for a long time. For sure, this trade war or tariff war will have negative impacts on the relationship between the USA and its traditional alliances, and and also for the U.S. leadership role in the world. And I think and many countries, especially the developing countries, or we see the global south countries, are seeking for the new markets, and also are cooperating with China, because also China is the second world market, consumer market in the world.
Mm-hmm. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Peter Roff, the contributing editor at Newsweek, and Mr. Nader Rong, the writer and political analyst. Gentlemen, thank you both for your special insights.